Oh, we're live. Okay, good. Hey, welcome to our Homebuyer Seminar. I'm Bill Gross. We get together. This is published every Friday on various social medias. And I'm along here with my colleagues. Let's see, she's that way.
Patricia Castillo. Hi, everybody.
And our good friend and lender.
Shannon Lender. How's it going, everyone?
We have new high tech. Let's see, there's three. We go three. We can go that way.
Oh,
Or we like this, but way better. We like better.
yeah, I like that better.
Okay. So, hey, whether you're buying your first home or your next home, we're here to talk about the housing market. And Shannon had a great question. Shannon, go ahead.
Yeah, so this is something that came up in an article that I actually saw, which says that a lot of first-time homebuyers are starting to shy away from the quote-unquote starter home and trying to see if they can find their forever home first, which according to them, a starter home is a property that again doesn't necessarily fit all your boxes, but it fits your budget. It may not be something that's totally fixed up. It could be, for example, a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, something that's a little bit, let's say, not as up to date, but is affordable. And the whole premise of a starter home is that you get into this home, live in it for 2 to 5 years. And then after that, once the equity's grown, you move into something bigger and better. But, the article is stating that when they took a survey, a lot of first-time home buyers are not looking at that route. And so the question is, do you guys think, especially being agents, a quote-unquote starter home is still a viable option for first-time home buyers? And so maybe you want to start off the question was, in your definition, what is a starter home? So that way people that are watching, kind of know what a starter home is. And do you guys still think that's, still an option for people or still a way for people to get into the housing market?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, maybe Patricia go first.
No, I was just going to say that, I think it all depends, right, on the buyer and what their budget is. But I've run into both. In fact, this is a live update on one of my buyers. Shannon and I are actually working with this buyer, and she wanted, originally, this is going to be the first time, right, that she's making offers and buying a property. She said she was flexible with the 2-bedroom. So we submitted an offer on a property, received a counter offer from the seller. All the terms were pretty good. So I said, as soon as you sign this, we can open escrow. And then she's kind of pulled back and said, you know what? I think I actually want a 3-bedroom. And so right now, because we have more inventory in the market, buyers can do that. They can pull back, even though they just had an offer basically accepted. They can change their mind. And so if somebody's going to buy a starter home, it's not going to, like you said, it's not going to check off all the boxes, right? But in this case, the buyer was originally going to buy the starter, and now she's thinking, no, I think I want to buy something more that I really want, because she's planning on being there longer than maybe, 2 to 5 years. And so I'm seeing more of buyers wanting to get the space that they need, because they also have growing families. And so kind of being, piled into one home, it's kind of tough, especially when you have people that are working from home, kids that are studying, and different age ranges. It's could get a little hectic when you're in a smaller home.
So, Bill.
So I have a little different take. One thing I would say is I think massive change in our, at least Southern California market, but it's probably true more than just in Southern California, is we have smaller families. Number one, we have less marriage, less people having children, and less families with 5 and 4 kids, more with 1 or maybe 2. What was a starter home now just a 2 or 3-bedroom home, and can be upgraded and really is now competing with people who that's big enough for them for whatever reason. And so that's one big change in the market. All housing prices have gone up so much that even what would be a starter home is expensive and beyond the reach of so many people. And I also think that there's more of a culture of wanting what I want rather than realizing you have to work for it. Like I can just say my own personal experience. When I was first married, my wife and I found the cheapest apartment in Diamond Bar. And I would say, people say to us, "Oh, Diamond Bar, they have beautiful gated homes and mansions there." And we'd say, "Yeah, they do. We don't live anywhere near those. We lived in the North End. That was a complete dump. It was basically Pomona within the city limits. And there was a helicopter overhead. I mean, it was rough. And we had no furniture. We had a bedroom set and a dresser. And then our mothers bought us a little dining table to sit on. I mean, we saved. We cooked at home. We didn't buy Starbucks. We spent money on nothing. And but our first year, we bought a starter home. It was the smallest house in a really nice neighborhood that we flipped a year later for $100,000 profit into a nicer 4-bedroom home that we lived in for about 10 years. And that's just because the culture I grew up in. It was scrape your way in and then ride the magic carpet ride of real estate as it goes. And I think that still is an opportunity, but so many people want, bigger. And I know in our neighborhood, parents are a lot of the market are parents buying for their kids, like a house up the street, $5 million, 5.5 bedroom, huge upgrade, everything house. I live in a more modest neighborhood. Our house, a lot in my neighborhood's torn down for 1.9 million now, and I live in a house that's worth a little bit more than a tear down value. But when parents are buying their kids $5 million houses, starter houses become difficult. So every market's so different, and LA has so many different markets. But I would just say overall that it depends what your values are. I grew up with thinking longer term, and so I would say. It's tougher getting into that starter home because now you're competing with maybe an older couple who don't have kids, but 2 bedrooms is enough for them. But it's a nicer home, so it's more expensive than it used to be, or in a nicer neighborhood. So it's definitely challenging to get started, but find someone to get onto the bus because once you're on the bus, you're moving, and then you have a chance to save and upgrade from there and use the tax advantage of real estate and the wealth building efforts of real estate. Look, I bought a house, I talked about this a year ago, for investment, and on top of the normal investment you get for property, it went up in value, and I'm actually going to be selling it for I think about $150,000, maybe $200,000 a year. Just doesn't even count the return I got for the money for the year, just extra investment money. So that's the power of real estate, and it's worth the hard work, but you have to make the decision if you want to go for that.
And
Patricia, how hard was your first house to get into?
I was pretty fortunate, I should say, because it was an off-market deal. I mean, we went through escrow, but we didn't even have an agent. We just bought it it was a private sale. We just bought it directly from the seller. It was a friend, happened to be selling a house in West Hills. We all worked at the same company, and that was my very first home. So it was a nice 4-bedroom pool home with fruit trees in the back and everything, and beautiful neighborhood, West Hills in the Valley. So it was not the same experience that you would normally have when you're buying your first home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you guys say that is the condo the new starter home, or
Not really.
no?
I mean,
This is a good conversation. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily what people first want.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is that when I was talking about, growing families, I've seen 2 families moving into a home, and so they need the space, right? They're not going to fit inside a condo or a townhome. There's just not enough space. Plus, most buyers that I talk to want some form of outdoor space. So they want a backyard, a patio on the front, somewhere to have family gatherings, somewhere for pets to run around or kids. So I don't have too many. I haven't actually filled too many condos this year, mainly single family.
Yeah.
But I think the most important thing is to really, see where you're at financially and just get information from a lender. Because I also see when I host open houses, most of the buyers that come in, they're not pre-qualified. They're looking around just to see what's on the market, see what homes are costing, but they don't actually know what they qualify for. And so they're out looking at homes, not even knowing if they actually qualify to buy that home. What if you end up liking it? What if you end up going to an open house and falling in love with the home? And then you think, okay, well, now I want to see what I qualify for. But in the meantime, the home could be sold by then. Right. So that's one of the biggest mistakes that I see as buyers starting. And I ask them, how long have you been looking? Oh, a month, or, oh, we just started. And maybe to them, just started is 2 months ago, but they still don't have any idea of what they qualify for. They're just out looking at homes. And so it's fun. It's fun to go look at homes and take a look around. But when you actually have a home that you feel a connection to, when you walk in the front door and you look around and you see yourself living there and you think, okay, gosh, I do want to make an offer. I want to take the next step. What do I do? They don't know what to do. Right. So at many open houses that I've hosted, I've had like a mini home buyer workshop there, just guiding people on what their next steps are, where to start, getting their loan approval completed, what documents they're going to need. And then it's like they're having to backpedal a little bit because they've already seen the home, but now they got to go back to step one and get their loan approval.
Yeah, that's definitely, and I walked that walk, like I said, the investment property I got pre-approved a year ago and kind of figure out what we're doing from all along, because you can't buy a property unless you have cash. You can't buy a property without the loan, and to suppose you can, and it's a rude awakening. And people, it's funny because people in open houses will let you in and show you the property, and they're glad to meet you. But as soon as you say, okay, but you can't write an offer without being pre-approved, the whole thing falls apart real quick. So
Yeah, that's right.
So what I find fascinating is, I have a podcast I do on the real estate market, and I think I want to talk about the fake news in real estate and how bad people's education is if all you is doing is tracking the news as it relates to real estate, or you're missing out. And one of the things that I find fascinating is, for all of the talk in the news of late about the volatility of the economy, interest rates are about the same they've been all year long. It's just amazing that in the last year, they've been slightly over 7 and somewhat below, maybe almost to 6, but not quite to 6. And since January 20th, the inauguration day, they've been slightly above 7 to as low as 6.5, and here we are still below 7%. So for all the talk of all the drama behind the scenes, the market's pretty stable. What do you make of that? How is that affecting real estate demand as you guys see it?
I'll say this, and I've said it before. If you're a first-time home buyer, do not make your decision based off of "quote unquote" waiting for the rates to go back down. This is a failing model, and I said this at the beginning of the year. Do not make your decision hoping and praying that, hey, I'm going to wait until rates go down, because obviously we've seen they haven't. Not to say that they won't, but if you try to play that, that crystal ball.
I have a crystal ball right here. Yeah, there's a crystal ball.
Exactly.
I keep it right by, so when people say you have a crystal ball, I go, yeah, I got one. It's right there.
You're not going to win. You're not going to win. And then again, there haven't been really much talk about, hey, we are going to lower rates. I think they're going to be steady for a while, but you have to make a decision based on that. And buy now, and like they always say, date the rate, marry the house. Even to start a house, you don't have to marry the house even, but marry the equity. Maybe I should say that, but yeah, the demand is still there. Maybe the demand could be more for those people that are not even talking to us at this moment because they're still waiting, but demand is still there. The inventory is still low. Make a decision based on where the rates are at right now.
And it doesn't seem like that's going to change, right? They're not going to build a lot more houses, I don't think.
No.
Unless you want to move out to, the IE or Palmdale. I mean, there's still some communities that are being built out there, and you could get a pretty good incentive from the builder, but you also want to make sure you have a realtor with you, because the builders the sales representative at the builder's office is working for the builder. So if you're a buyer and you're going to a new community, you want somebody to negotiate on behalf of you and represent you and your best interest to make sure you get the best incentives, the best, programs and interest rates, and maybe closing costs paid. You might get some, if it's an HOA community, you might get HOAs paid for you for a few months. So things like that. There's a lot of different ways to negotiate with the builder.
Yeah, and even that, buying something that, like you said, is in where they're building, you're not thinking about the rate, right? You're not thinking about, hey, I'm not making a decision based on the interest rate. It's, hey, where's the inventory at? Where's the community? You're in that headspace. You're not in the headspace of trying to time the market. It's a dangerous game to play.
Yeah. Then you'll fall into analysis paralysis, where you're thinking of so many things that you end up just not actually taking a step forward.
Yeah. And I would say for the first time home buyer out there, when the rates go down, you want to already be in a house. You just want to lower that payment. Because once rates go down, more people like you are going to come out in the market. You're going to start a bidding war, and prices are going to go up, and you can't change how much you bought the home for. You already want to be in a house by the time rates do go down. So let's say you're right. Rates are going to go down by the end of this year. Let's say that's what you're thinking. Even if you are thinking that, and even if you are right, you want to already be inside of the house. And at that point, just say, hey, Shannon or my lender, I'm already in. How can I now lower my payment and increase my equity at that point? So, yeah, that's the mindset.
There's a saying: you can be right or you can be rich. You just can't be both.
Okay. I like that.
Yeah, and I think it's so funny because in my on my YouTube channel, let me see if I can pull it up. There's a comment I got the other day. Here you go. I guess this is public, so I can show this. Let's see. We'll put it over here. And I think this is hysterical. I think I get this kind of comment all the time from people who know so much. They never bought a house in their life. But this one right here says, where'd you get? You see a disclaimer. I'm sorry. We're not going to buy homes until prices drop significantly. Not a rate drop, price drop. You can't really see that. Let me see if I can make this bigger.
So they're waiting for prices to drop before they even think about purchasing a home.
Not just a rate drop, a price drop. And it's like, if you're waiting for that, oops, I shouldn't be having that up there on the screen. Sorry about that. If you're waiting for the rate to drop and the price to drop, I think you're going to have a long wait, because if the rates drop, prices will go up. And I also think if you buy a house and you bought too early because rates dropped, you can refinance, and what basically happens is your payment just basically drops, and if it drops enough, for free. And there are people who did that throughout the 80s and 90s, and again the 2000s. They just every 3 months, 6 months, a year, they would refinance for free to a lower rate, drop 0.25%, 8%, 0.5%, because the lender will give certain monies to cover the closing costs at a certain rate. So, if you really believe rates are going to go down, then buy the house now and just get a 0-point loan, pay a little higher rate, save money on your closing costs. You also can get a binder on your title, and I wouldn't recommend getting that, but if you're going to redo it, if you really feel that strongly about it, it's going to go down. But the reality is nobody feels that strongly. The truth is, the rates are where they are. They go up, they go down over time, and you in a position yourself to take advantage of them. And if the house makes sense for you now, you obviously want to buy a house you can't afford. But if you can, and for investment property, if it pencils out and makes sense and makes a profit, there's a reasonable return, I would jump on it. I bought a property, the investment property, I didn't even know what rates were going to be a year later. I didn't care. There was enough equity in it where it didn't matter to me, and I had enough return that it made sense. But you have to be able to look at a deal and find a deal that pencils out for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the same thing. And going back to what your finances are, what you feel comfortable as far as your monthly mortgage payment, property taxes, and then insurance. So any property that you're looking at, you also want to check the fire insurance quote and see what that's going to cost you every month.
Oh, good point. I need to get insurance for
Yeah.
that.
I think that's a topic for next week.
I'm gonna call right now. I'm making it myself.
You need insurance, Bill.
Yep, I certainly do. It's funny because you say that, and you might think that I don't need insurance because this is the house I'm going to only hold for a few months. But I do need insurance. I need it for two reasons. One, I'm going to need it because the lender's going to require it, which I won't find out until we're ready to close escrow. And second, I need it because it could burn down. And in this case, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world because the house it could be knocked down and rebuilt. But I don't want to take on that chance and time and all that. So
That's
there you
right.
go. Okay, so I think we're kind of into this a bit. Any other burning issues, questions, updates, open houses?
Open house this weekend on my listing in Lancaster. It's a 3-bedroom, 3-bath. Saturday and Sunday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And the address is 2701 West Avenue K1. It's right just a few blocks down from Antelope Valley College, right off of Avenue K is the larger street, and K1 is right behind that parallel. So it's a great home, and it's priced to sell. Has a beautiful sparkling pool in the back, and the lot size is over 12,000 square feet.
And Patricia will be there in the pool in her thong to show off the pool. And I'll be there. I'll be there in my Speedo. No, I'm not going to be there. Okay, Shannon, what's going on with you? What's new, exciting? Anything promoting? Any particular program?
No, I just did a Zoom class actually for some of my agents on the CalHAFA All Access program that gives you 3.5% for your down payment and then another 2.5% for your closing costs.
Oof.
So that's one. We're also doing a lot in the multifamily space. And we got a line with Chase too. So if you guys are interested in 5-unit plus properties, I know this is first time home buyer seminar, but we do have that too. Nice. And we're working on a few. I'm doing a lot actually. It's funny. I'm doing a lot of seconds right now too. It's another thing. Investment seconds. People are trying to pull out money, buy another property, fix the one that they have, or some of them are trying to get into flips. So they're trying to pull out some money and do that. So
nice. Okay, so I think we should wrap up here. Patricia, so wants to get a hold of you. The best way to get a hold of you is your cell phone.
My cell phone number 323-365-9909.
And she answers the cell phone, everybody. So or you can text her. And Shannon, the lender, best way to get a hold of you.
Yeah, my number is 661-317-8484, or you can DM me on Instagram FUND Fund with Shannon. I promise you, once we're done, you will have a lot of fun knowing your numbers and seeing where you're at. So.
Oh, very exciting! Very exciting. Okay, good. So you have both fund and fun with Shannon.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to beat you.
I wasn't going to say anything. I'm trying to get off of saying that. It's my New Year's resolution.
I have PTSD, so I'm trying to get ahead of it.
And I'm Bill Gross at Bill Gross Probate and social media. And if I can help in any way, please reach out. As always, have a great week. Patricia, Shannon, thank you so much, and we'll talk soon.
Bye-bye.